Can I tell you guys a story? I'm going to tell you a little story. So, I'm Jeff Newton, former 60 Minutes producer, former senior producer at Vice on HBO, and former senior producer at National Geographic Television. Most of my career, all I've done is mostly war reporting, 30 years of it. And in my career, I've had an opportunity to go all around the world and see dozens of countries and mostly the craziest places you'd ever want to be. And in that regard, I've won some awards. I've won a number of Emmy Awards. And early on, I won my first one, and then I won my second one, and they would sit in my apartment and stare at me. I lived in a little studio apartment in Brooklyn at the time, and I spent about 200 days a year on the road. In fact, most of the people that stayed at my house were not me or my friends. They'd come and stay when I was gone. Several of them had keys to my apartment because I was never there. Always on the road, always in conflict zones, Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, Libya, places like that. And, I won some Emmy Awards. And when you sit in a little studio apartment and you win an Emmy Award, you're like really excited at the ceremony. Then you take it home and you still realize your life hasn't changed. Your friends and family think you're a rock star, but there you are in that 470 square foot studio apartment in Brooklyn, looking down at the garbage trucks, and you realize it's not really a life-changing event. And you also realize you're not as special as you thought you were, like the night before when you were wearing a tuxedo. You're just another guy going back to work. But when you stare at these things, these big gold statues, you get the sense of self-importance. And I think maybe it's nice to be recognized for the work that you do, but some of the best work I've done, we didn't even enter for Emmys because when I first got to 60 Minutes, we didn't even know we were allowed to put them forward to the show. We thought the show picked them. Anyways, the best work I did was probably in the first 5 years, and I was there 15 years. But after I won a couple of these things and I'd stare at them in my apartment, I started thinking they weren't very useful to me because they made me not work as hard. Because you thought you'd landed, you thought you'd been there, you made it. So I gave a couple to my mother. She passed away this year at 89 years old, 1 month short of her 90th birthday. And she was my best friend. And I loved her very much. When shit was hard in life, she always helped me through, She paid my $250 rent that I had at university when I was in the 80s. Anytime I got in trouble for something, she bailed me out. And the only advice she ever gave me was, don't make the same mistake again. And so I tried really hard throughout my life to listen to that advice. So years went by and I never felt like I could repay her for anything. So on a couple different occasions, one time at Christmas and another time a couple years later, I gave her these Emmy Awards. And I told her, use them as bookends. Put them in your house, use them as bookends when your friends come over. This is my son, right? And that way I don't have to look at him and I don't have to be thinking about how I'm failing in life if I don't win another one. I can just keep doing the work that I was doing, telling stories for 60 minutes. And it was funny because Mom, after a little while, she took them and she put them back in these. They come in big black boxes, huge black boxes with velvet lining. And she put them back in these boxes because my mom is a child, child of the 30s and 40s and World War II, and she preserved everything forever. Instead of looking at them and using them, she just took them and put them in a box and put them in the closet. So it kind of defeated the purpose of me doing it. It's one thing I could give back to her. What can I give a person who gave me everything, gave me life, gave me life's lessons, supported me through the toughest times of my life? There were these Emmys in the fucking closet. It was just like her. Now here's what she didn't do. There's a reason to this story. She didn't think she won the Emmys. She didn't think she was an Emmy Award-winning producer because I gave them to her. She just thought it was a gesture. She didn't think she deserved them. She had a part in them in her own way, right? So it was weird to me the other day when the Nobel Prize winner from Venezuela came to the White House and gave Donald Trump her Nobel Prize. I could recognize, like I would give, if I won a Nobel Prize, I'd probably give it to my mom too, right? There's no value in it for me, but for her, there was some value because she would love to be running the government down there. I have nothing against Maria Machado. She's a wonderful person, I'm sure. But she came there with this thing with the intention of giving it to him because she thought Donald says he stops 8 or 9 wars. By the time this month's over, it'll probably be 11 wars. How many? There must be little. Some of them are very little, and I don't know where they are. And some of them he cites are not really war, but that's okay. He saved the planet. So she gave him this Nobel Prize, and he thinks that he earned it in some way. So I just thought that was a funny comparison. I don't know what to make of this whole giving her a Nobel Prize to him. So you probably have a similar story, right? You gave somebody something and but they generally don't. Just for me, I didn't see my mom going around to her friends going, I'm an Emmy Award winner. At the time, 2-time Emmy Award winner. I'm a 2-time Emmy Award winner. My name's Sandra Newton. She didn't do that. It's weird, right? Yeah. I gave another one to my lawyer who lives down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Said, safeguard this for me. I'm going on a trip for about 3 or 4 months on my motorcycle. And she's done a lot of work for me over the years and a very close friend of mine. And I gave it to her. She put it in her law office in Charlotte. She does a lot of immigration law, by the way, all things, but mostly she does visas for people around the world and passports and all that kind of stuff. And, she put it on her desk, and I was there about a year ago to pick up some legal documents. And I said, hey, I'm going to take this Emmy back. And she said, no, you're not going to get it back. And I said, what do you mean? Can I have it back? She said, no, we're going to bury it with you. But until then, it's mine. And she had tchotchkes and stuff, like dog collars and stuff from her dog, like ordained over top of it and hanging off it and stuff. It was pretty funny. And, it gave her joy to have it. And not only that, but not to give it back to me, it gave her more joy. These awards you win, they're nice. They're recognition, but they're not who you are. Who you are is like how you treat other humans. And if you have love and empathy and caring and you don't adorn yourself with all these things, when you do, it says something about you. It says something about you. You think that Nobel Prize that was won somebody else is actually something you deserved. And you actually couldn't say to her, you deserve this, you should keep it. You should keep this thing. It's an amazing thing. You should keep it. You've done a lot of work for the Venezuelan people. I don't understand how somebody can't do that. It's a Nobel fucking Prize, right? Anyways, this is too long, but, he's got an illness, a narcissistic illness. Yeah. I need to get, if you study narcissism, because I'll get lambasted for trying to go down a road. I have a sister who has it. It's horrible. Nobody in the family will talk to her anymore because you can't win with narcissists. There is no winning argument. They only want to win, and they don't care if the attention you give them is positive or negative. This explains a lot about Mr. Trump. They don't care if it's negative energy or positive energy. They just need that energy. And if they don't get it, they go crazy. So we'll talk about it. I need some clinicians to talk to me about if they treat this. Mostly they treat it for victims of it, right? Because you can't cure a narcissist. There's no cure for it. And nobody who studies this stuff says it's a good idea to try to fix the person who is a narcissist. So we can't fix them, just like we can't fix my sister. But Nobel Prize winner, apparently, or deserving of one. Yeah. Follow, like, and share. Follow from the Writer's Cabin on Substack. We're on Substack now. It's very small numbers, but we just started. And we're also across all the other platforms. Blue Sky is kind of tricky to us right now, but Instagram, Facebook, we have, from the Writer's Cabin. My personal page, Jeff Newton, has a lot of followers there. We post stuff there too. And if you're on Substack, you'll be able to see some of our political discussions in the weeks and months to come because we're going to set up a podcast there. Anyways, you guys take care. Have a great Sunday.